One of the marvellous things about this exhibition, I think, from my point of view, is that it came about through conversations and chance occurrences. So I think it was in 2015, around January, I opened up the Western Australian, or on the front cover of the Western Australian, I was astonished to see a photograph of a man, and next to the man was a very tea-stained skull, ancient-looking skull. This is something that I'd never seen on the front cover of any newspaper in my life, and I was immediately interested. So further into the pages, I found that there'd been amazing new discoveries of the Batavia skeletal remains that had been found, and I was immediately interested. And I saw that it was through the Roaring Forties project, and that it was with UWA. So I thought I'd get in contact with the only person I knew at UWA, which was Ted Snell, the curator and the cultural precinct curator at UWA. Ted immediately put me in contact with Al Patterson, and not long after we were having a beer, only a week after he came back from this amazing discovery, and he was telling me all sorts of amazing things about the discoveries. So from then on, we went into a whole series of interesting discussions about the possibilities of having an exhibition, and about the possibilities of how art and science could tell this very complex story of the Batavia. I was very fortunate in November 2016 to be invited onto an archaeological dig, which occurred at Beacon Island. And I was only there for 3 days, but on the second day, there was a discovery that was made of a skeleton. And Dan Franklin was digging from this end of the trench and discovered the feet, the legs as it were, and the next day the full skeleton was revealed. So this year, towards this exhibition, I gave myself the challenge of trying to capture something of that experience. If an artist is trying to capture an experience, the problem is there's so much that's left out. You can take photographs of something, but there's always so much that's left out. I had a whole archive of images that I drew from, but what I wanted to draw from most was the experience of those around me. So while I was on the dig, I noticed that the labours that archaeologists go through to do their job are quite extraordinary. And in fact, the island marked the bodies of those that were doing the digs. People were getting sunburned terribly, and the island was incredibly exposed. So when I came to do this book, this is an artist's book, I wanted to give a sense of the isolation of the individual, the fact that the individual had been in the ground for nearly 400 years, and the fact that the body, when it was revealed, had actually been severely damaged by the bird life. So the birds have a lot to say in terms of what was discovered. So in fact, these were shallow graves, and the birds had dug their nests and nested inside the chests and pushed the jaw of the victim outwards, so that when this body was actually revealed, I wondered what it was. I couldn't quite see what it was. And the bones were incredibly fragile, paper thin. So when I came to do the skeleton, I wanted to make sure that I gave you some sense of the phenomenological experience of being present there. And so these lines have been gouged into a copper plate and then printed onto Japanese paper to give a sense of the thinness and the relationship of the human to the island. And then surrounding the body are also signs of life, the birds, the clouds, the relentless nature of the ocean.